Mr. Baba Kalyani joins us now, Chairman and Managing Director of Bharat Forge. Mr. Kalyani, good morning. Thank you for joining us. What do you think this tax cut means for your company and your sector?
Well, first of all, before I say that, let me just congratulate the Honorable Finance Minister for providing this big boost to rev up investments in the private sector. I think this tax cut will go a long way in improving the sentiment and probably get our animal spirit back that we used to have a few years ago. And also dramatically improve India's manufacturing competitiveness. As far as our company is concerned, I think the benefit is pretty direct because we were in the highest tax-paying bracket in spite of being a large export-oriented industry. We were at roughly 32-33% tax rate. So I think it should help us have a lower tax, which hopefully can be converted into investments in some of the new areas that we're looking at.
Lower tax means more cash flows. Would you be looking at using that advantage of cash flows to increase capex, or you would say, look, I'm in no mood to spend right now. I'm in no mood to commit to more capex. I'm happy with what is happening, whereas I'm welcoming and celebrating this tax cut. Nothing in terms of an boardroom strategy changes for me. How would you approach it?
I think, the way I look at it is, till now we were looking at a situation where we were saying that we will just freeze our capex for a fairly reasonable period of time, because we didn't really have the risk appetite to move into creating capacities or doing something new. My hope is that with this single measure of tax reduction and also the measures like using CSR for some of the other activities, I think you will start seeing a lot of new demand coming up in other areas, which will mandate investments as we start seeing demand, and hopefully that is what will start driving investments in that direction. Now, it might take a few months before all this starts, but I'm pretty sure that this will re-energize investments in the private sector.
Talk about the auto sector in particular, given the extreme slowdown and stress that we've seen it go through, what's the likely impact of this going forward? And given that we haven't seen any relief on the GST side, any of the other reforms pertaining to the auto sector that we've heard the government discuss, the finance minister allude to, what's your sense now going forward? How do you see things improving, and to what extent?
I think, things will definitely improve first of all, every country in the world where tax cuts have been put into place have been able to convert their manufacturing sector into a much more competitive sector. You can look at countries like Vietnam, United States is a good example. So their economies have improved. Vietnam has started getting a lot of investments from outside because of this particular reason, and I am sure that similarly India will start getting a lot of investments because our taxes are now amongst the lowest in the world, especially if you're starting a new business. On the other hand, we also need to understand that business models for industries is changing quite dramatically. The business models are not the same old business models. There are, whether it's the transportation sector, whether it's the automotive sector, there are new business models that are coming in. There is new technologies that is coming in, especially if you look at the EV sector, electric vehicles. Many OEMs are announcing, entry into the EV business. I think all of us understand that this will take time. This is not something that will happen overnight, but it's also a starting point of beginning to start looking at this sector and planning to create capability and capacity to supply into this sector as and when the demand comes up. So I think a lot of these new things will start happening.
And on demand as well, just on the fact that we are seeing a slowdown on that front, and we haven't yet seen anything to really give a fillip to demand. What's your overall sense, Mr. Kalyani? When do you see that happening?
It just reminds me of what happened in 1995-96. Anybody who was in the automotive industry and the supply industry for automotive at that time would remember that we went through exactly the same process. Of course, our economy was much smaller at that time, but what happened to the demand and how long it took for the demand to come back was exactly the same. And the process of a lot of stocks with the dealer system, etc., it was very, very similar. So this is not the first time that we are looking at this. We had a situation like this in 2008 when the financial meltdown happened. And I think government took a very smart decision that time of creating demand by ordering buses through the urban renewal, the JNUR urban renewal program, which kind of brought the automotive industry back on its feet in less than 6 to 8 months. So there are many levers that are available to get demand up, and I'm sure that we will see some of them happening.
Announced though, Mr. Kalyani, even though the industry was waiting with bated breath that a GST cut could be coming, not announced on Friday. Do you think a corporate tax rate cut though would be enough alone to really prop up demand for the sector and boost the profitability?
The corporate tax cut is definitely the biggest reform that I have seen in the last 20, 30 years. It's even bigger than the 91 reform that we had. So what it really does, more than anything else, it makes the Indian industry far more competitive. And I think it is the competitiveness of the industry that will help us increase our exports, that will help us get into, in a larger way, into the supply chains of global OEMs. We have a big opportunity with the issues that are going on with China. And even if we got 10-15% of that supply chain, that would mean a big boost to our manufacturing sector. So I think we are pretty optimistic that that's the direction that our manufacturing sector in India will take with this reforms that the Honorable Finance Minister has put.
General on-ground reality, the decisions by the Finance Minister surely will have a medium-term and a long-term impact. But, between Friday and Monday, I don't think car sales have revived and I don't think CV sales have revived. How are things looking in the short term? Because all we are getting from auto companies and auto ancillary companies is not good news, but terrible and bad news. When will we start saying the worst is behind for autos?
The correct answer to that question will come once we start seeing the trend in the festival season. My own personal guess is that based on my experience of downturns in the automobile industry in the past, is that it does take a couple of months before the trend reverses and the demand comes up. But the first sign of that trend reversing is to bring in more optimism in the market, let's say re-energize the market. And I think that has happened with this announcement that took place last week on Friday.
You're in a hurry to go. I'm going to just.
I think we are optimistic, not cautious.
I'm going to get in one more question, Mr. Kalyani. I know we are running on a tight leash on time. 2022, 2023, 2024, the world around us will change. How will the face of Bharat Forge change at a time when disruption in EV is a reality?
Well, I think it will change for the better. We are ready for it. We are ready with a lot of new technologies. We have already made whatever investments that need to be made. So I think it will change for the better.
Mr. Kalyani, a pleasure as always. Thank you so much for joining us and do have a good day ahead.